Hello, dear listeners. If you're new here, we're Margin Mavens, and we are obsessed with writing in our books and sharing our thoughts with you guys. Today we are talking about One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, the author's debut novel following Elspeth Spindle and her misadventures in the kingdom of Blunder, where everyone covets the magic of the cards, hoping to keep the spirit of the wood at bay. There's a sickness that plagues the kingdom, one that gives the carrier the ability to use magic, every individual given a different skill, and when she was little, Elspeth learned that her magic makes it so she absorbs whatever lives in the card she touches, and since then, she has been sharing her mind with what she calls the nightmare. What were your thoughts on this book, Kayla?
Holy sugar snaps.
Holy sugar snaps.
Holy sugar snaps. I wasn't sure about it at the start. And then I think it took like maybe 20, 30 pages before I was like, oh, yep, I'm sat. Yeah. I'm a finish this book real quick. Yeah. Like, just the way that the author just weaves everything together. And while some of it, like, was predictable, it still had impact.
Yeah.
When it was, like, revealed. So, spoilers ahoy.
Spoilers ahoy. Our book chats are always teeming with spoilers. Yes. Because ultimately we are sitting down and talking about the book and not mincing our words.
Yes, I don't believe in mincing my words. So discovering that the nightmare is actually the Shepherd King, like I saw that coming. Like I knew that was coming. Finding out that the Shepherd King was a you, like the originator of the family, did not see that coming. It made sense though, like once you discover like the old like castle and shit like that, it's like, oh shit, like that's
no one's ever thought, why is there an old castle here?
Nobody's ever considered that. But and then just the ending, like the way the Shepherd King just uses Elspeth to get his revenge. Or at least get to a point where he can enact his revenge against the Rowan family.
He's like, bring me into the castle. Things will be great.
Yeah. Everything will be fine.
Questions.
Yeah.
You know,
but you're going to give me what I want.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. The one thing I'm really curious on is at the end, the Shepherd King is bargaining, right? With the King Rowan, about like the Twin Elders card and like keeping him alive and things like that.
Making sure that the brother was able to go back to the U's.
That's the part. Like Emery, like was that the Shepherd King or was that Elspeth?
Well, we have to remember that she specifically makes him promise to help Raven. And make sure that like they were still going to get help because okay, so backing us up a little bit, at the very end of the book, we find out that Hoth, the heir to the throne, right, the one that's going to become prince, the one that Elspeth's cousin is betrothed to,
Ione, yes,
is just not a great person. We already knew this because of just who he is as a person. But he goes and he attacks Elspeth because he believes that she is infected, right? And he's like, I need to bring you down. And she knows that she's not going to make it out. She herself does not have the ability to defend herself.
Correct.
And so, but by this point, she also knew that the more she was calling upon the nightmare, the more of herself she was losing in that process. And there were certain points that I think the nightmare was not necessarily sorry that it was happening, but he seemed a little sorry that she hadn't caught on sooner.
Right.
That would be what her degeneration is. You know, I think he was kind of just like, oh yeah, she knows that degeneration exists. She knows that there's a price for this, you know, and the fact that she hasn't pieced it together, that every time she uses me, I'm becoming stronger. That's kind of on her. You know, and I understood that. What was the fact that he spoke in riddles the entire time incredibly infuriating? Yeah.
No, it was dope. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked when he talked, but I definitely, like, from her point of view, I was like, yeah, having this in my head and, like, nothing useful coming out of you would drive me
11 years
would drive me up the wall. Because I was like, as somebody who's reading this, you know, in a couple of sittings, this is super cool. This is an element that, you know, we hadn't gotten before. There was a very brief moment in the beginning, because the Nightmare uses a lot of terms of endearment with her. I do believe that he genuinely cares about her, but that the takeover was kind of inevitable because if he wanted to be there and protect her, it's not like he could stop the process of the degeneration and stuff. You're making a face. Share your words. They can't see your face.
I don't think he really cared about her. I think he cared about what the end game was. I think he knew that I think he knew that if she died, he'd be lost forever. There would be no, like, I think it was about self-preservation for him. I don't think he actually cared about Elspeth. I don't actually believe that he freed Emery or wants to free Emery because of the promise he made Elspeth. I think that's more of his chance to just fuck with the Rowans more than anything else.
Gotcha.
Because that's what he has a deep distinct hatred for the Rowans.
Which granted, after they came in and just wiped
his family
and himself and all. He's like, you guys stole this kingdom from me, and then is like speaking blasphemy about these cards. Like,
yeah. Like, I think it's for the Shepherd King. I think it's the principle. I don't think he actually cared about Elspeth outside of getting his revenge.
I'm still gonna say that he cares. Not as much as I would want him to care. But because the way that he was speaking to her, in the end, right before she was like gone, kind of thing, just didn't seem cruel. Like, it didn't seem as though somebody that didn't care about the person. I think him being what he is, right? Like, inevitably he has still spent 11 years sharing a mind with this person and seeing how they're like walking the world and everything. I don't think that he's completely like cold-hearted towards her. I do see that he's using her as a tool and views her as such, but it almost strikes me as like, you know, like on a stove you have like a burner you prefer.
Yeah.
Right? But like using that burner and only that burner means that eventually that burner is gonna not work as well because it's the only one you're using, kind of thing. That's kind of how I think he views her. Of like, you're my favorite burner and I like using you. I want to take care of you, but end goal is you're cooking my food. And when you are done being used, I will deal with it accordingly. Is kind of the weird metaphor that I had in terms of how he was dealing with her.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's fair.
First off, there were so many points in this book that I was so floored just by like the wording and the beauty of some of the quotes and the like world building that was happening. Because I think like a first book for any fantasy has a lot of heavy lifting because they have to set the world up. They have to make sure the basis of the magic system and the politics has kind of been laid there. So as anything that happens later, things are explained and it's not like, oh, why does this king even exist? You know? I was never bored reading this book. I think once I actually picked it up, I was in it.
In it to win it.
I was in it had to get to the end.
Had to know what happened. And the side characters
were all interesting.
They were all interesting. They were
so funny.
They were all well written.
Yeah.
Elm is probably my favorite. Elm is my favorite. And it just like it's just a fantastic.
Yeah, I think like
novel.
You can tell that the author put a lot of thought into, let me make sure that it's not just following Elspeth and like her love interest. Make sure that all of the characters have something to give to the plot, you know? And like Elm is super interesting because he kind of like goes toe to toe with his brother, not just in the like courtyard or whatever during the festival, but he kind of does it on like a daily basis. Like he's like,
Yes.
you might be heir to the kingdom, but you are still just my annoying older brother, and I'm gonna call you out on the things that you're doing.
Yes.
And I did like that kind of like connection between the Rowan family and the Yu family, and the fact that like obviously the Yus were under the Rowans because of hierarchy and everything like that, but when it was just like the people, like the kids that grew up together, right? Like if Hoth was doing something super annoying, all of them were quick to be like, chillax, you know? And I think that's obviously not like a normalcy that Prince would see from anybody else.
Right.
What did we think of Ione?
I think she realized real quick what her father was up to, what the end game was, what danger and trouble that she was going to be in. And I think she pivoted beautifully. I think she truly like just dug deep and was like, no, I'm not going to be used as a pawn, but I'll play your game.
And make you think
because
that
that's what keeps me because that's what keeps me safe. And truly a very interesting, probably like my favorite character development. And I'm curious how much of that has to do with the maiden card.
Yeah, like how much of it is her actually becoming more cruel, because that's the degeneration, that's the like bad side of the card. So every card, for those who have not read the book, has a good side, right? So it's the skill or power that it gives you, and then you have the drawback, whatever kind of price you're paying the longer or more often you use this card.
All magic comes with a price.
And with the maiden, it is very much like you are going to be granted superficial beauty. Everyone is going to see you more beautiful than you were, but the drawback is that you will become more cold-hearted the longer you use it. And from the moment that Ione seems to use it, we don't see her ever not with it. You know, so it leaves the question of, is she ever not using it, or is it just on all the time? Like, is she not using it when she's like in the privacy of her own room, in the bathroom, like, you know, or is it just something that she's doing because she maybe feels like she needs to be cold-hearted in order to make the decisions that are keeping her alive? I'm incredibly interested in that, despite the argument that she had with Elspeth, despite the kind of like animosity that still seems to be there a little bit about the situation. She is still like going out of her way to cover for Elspeth.
Yes.
And I find that really interesting, because the first time she does it is when Hoth first asks Elspeth what happened to your wrist, and she like boldly lies and says like, oh, we were horseback riding and she fell, which everybody except for Hoth would know was a lie because they were all there except, you know, and so all of them are very quickly like, oh, she just like lied for us. That's weird. And then later on, Hoth uses truth serum and she taps the cards to make sure that Elspeth can't say what happened to the wrist. Which is super interesting. We have yet to really...
I think she's doing it because of the animosity. Like, I think she realized that she was in the wrong and that Elspeth was right. And I wonder how much of this is the maiden card, but I think she's unable to fully, like, apologize because she doesn't want to admit that she was wrong.
So her actions are doing it.
So her actions are speaking for her.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm really interested to see, because we're definitely going to get more of her now that they're going to be in the same castle together. But we're going to see her from, obviously, the Nightmare's point of view. I don't for a second believe that Elspeth is gone. I think she is, like, buried in the catacombs of her brain. I do not think she's gone. Kayla looks like she believes she is gone. Yeah.
You do.
You would. You were the killer of my hope.
I know. I was thinking about it after I finished the book, and I was like, okay, how would I like this? How would I prefer to see this end? Like, you know, like, realistically speaking, as realistic as you can get when you're talking about a fictional world, what would I like to see happen? I'm like, yes, I would love to see Elspeth, you know, come back from this. The Shepherd King gets his revenge. The Rowan family eats crow and, you know, all of that. But I would also like as this is weird for me to say because I'm very much a happily ever after girl. Okay, like I love when everything is happily ever after, tied up in a neat bow, like nothing breaks me. I am, but it would just be so good to see Elspeth sort of just like she's done her job. She's humanized the Shepherd King enough that he's going to follow through.
You're condemning her to death.
He's going to follow through. He's going to help the Yu family. He's going to enact his revenge. And then both of them just peacefully go off and live the peace that they have not had for years.
No.
And
you know what I think happens, you Debbie Downer. I'm going to speak this into existence. Okay, so we know Shepherd King is a Yu.
Yes, we do.
I believe he is going to get some sort of revenge, right? Mm-hmm. But what I believe is Endgame. What I believe is going to be the finale. Not sure how. Don't know what needs to happen, right? Haven't dug into it too much. I believe the Yus are going to replace the Rowans. Okay. Right? His revenge is going to be like my family, my namesake is going to continue that legacy. And I will believe, because I love her too much, that the Shepherd King is going to release her or be forcefully taken out. Mm-hmm. Right? Because no way is Raven just gonna exist in the realm of I let my honeybee over here be taken over by a weird guy and I'm not gonna do nothing about it. I think something will happen. No. I think something will happen. Elspeth will come back. And I believe Raven and her become the new rulers or the new hierarchy if it's not like a royals family thing. What did I just make you think of? Because I'm immediately upset.
The ritual, whatever, to bring all the cards together from the deck requires infected blood. If Elspeth has degenerated, does her blood still count as infected? Or is Raven going to sacrifice himself to be able to bring her back?
So you're not happy just taking away one of my people. You want to take away both?
No, I mean, Elspeth comes back. She's cured of her infection. She's cured of all that, but they
Raven
have to sacrifice infected blood. Yeah, they have to do that.
No, I think if we're going with somebody has to be infected, right? Unfortunately, my bet is still on Emery. Second bet is that the king is somehow hiding the fact that he is infected. Or Hoth ends up infected. Somebody, you're going to make it to where the moment we finish recording this, I have to pick up the book, even though I have other things to be reading. Oh. Okay. Theories aside, we have not spoken enough about Mr. Raven Yu and the man that he is.
Truly.
Listen. I have read a lot of books in my day.
No, really?
I've read a lot of books in my day. Without a doubt, he makes like top 5 book boyfriends.
Top 5, 100%. Top 3 for me, truly.
I would have to really sit down and think about it, because unfortunately one of my top 5, I think, would be from a Sarah J. Maas series, which I don't bring her up often because she is a terrible person. So those who have not read that series, although it is my nostalgia favorite, because it's what really got me back into reading a couple years ago, bootleg them. Don't give her money if you can help it. One of them is definitely from that series. I would have to sit down and really think about all of the boyfriends that I've had in literature and really sit down and
rank them. Maybe that should be
that would be content. That'll be another video for sure. No, I loved him. I loved him almost immediately when he kind of owns up to the fact that he was the one that was holding a knife to her that night, and then he's like, if I would have known it was you, I wouldn't have done it. Um, Also, the fact that when they're like, okay, we have a quick and easy cover for why she needs to come with us. Just pretend that you're courting her. And he's like, absolutely not. And I was like, I also had my feelings hurt because I was like, no way. Is this guy going to just be rude about it right now? And then when he explains it later of like, I was already into you. Like, I didn't want to pretend to be courting you and have it, be something like bit him in the ass. Like, I fully got that because like, if you had a crush on someone and then was told like you're gonna pretend to like them, you'll be like, man, but now when they pretend to like me back, I'm gonna be confused and hurt. Yeah, I really like the fact that like from the jump he was like all in with her, even if she didn't know. Of like, I trust her. I do not think that she is lying to us, even when like Elm was like, she definitely is hiding something. And he goes, okay, but like she's been hiding stuff for like 11 years. Like we can't just immediately assume she's going to tell us everything right off the jump.
Right.
Yeah, I really liked him. I liked that he was willing to come help Elsbeth, even knowing it would be a death sentence for him and Elm. He was still racing to like get to her. And it was really a test of like, is she going to be able to like, is the Shepherd King going to be able to take her over before like he gets there kind of thing, because they were both racing to help each other, and I love that so much. Something about this book grabbed me by the throat and like never let me go.
Yeah,
I have read,
it's been a hot minute.
This point I have read 77 books this year, and it's August 8th when we're recording this, and I'm pretty confident this ends up in like my top 5 of the year.
This definitely ends up in my top 10.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like there was something about it. The world was super interesting. Raven, listen, you want to know, listeners, get in real close for this. You want to know the exact moment Raven won me over and there was no way he was going to ever be free of me? When he broke Hoth's hand.
Correct. That is the only appropriate answer.
Because,
that is the only appropriate answer.
Listeners, listen.
Pretty sure I highlighted that in my digital copy.
One night, when they're trying to steal a card, Elsbeth and Hoth go hand to hand. Once again, she's using the nightmare at this point. The Shepherd King. She's using the nightmare at this point. He doesn't know who she is, but he breaks her wrist. He is a brute in the way that he fights. The rest of them were obviously trying to take everybody out, but like they seem to be trying to take them out by like knocking them out. He is like breaking bones and like showing no mercy to these people and like whatever. Raven, when he finds this out, is immediately a little feral.
Immediately upset.
Yeah, immediately is like, he did what?
Yeah.
Does not even take into consideration, like, Hoth had no idea it was a lady, like, had no idea, who it was. Like, Raven is just like, he broke your wrist?
Yeah.
And so then, shortly thereafter, Hoth decides that the guard needs to go through kind of, like, training spars again, because they're like, there's no way that these highwaymen were able to beat us if we were better trained. And so they go through a sparring thing, and we find out a little bit more backstory between Hoth and Raven. Hoth doesn't really like fighting Raven because Raven is immune to
most cards.
And so Hoth kind of really relies on his scythe card, which makes it to where he can control people and stuff like that. So they end up fighting. Raven is obviously beating him up. No remorse. Really shows the difference in skill, which this scene kind of is the first time I was thinking of the idea of Raven kind of being painted as like the better option than Hoth, which is why we circle back to the idea of their family taking over what the Rowans are doing. Fast forward, going back to where I was, and without mercy, like breaks his hand. And Elsbeth is like, yo, like he just broke his hand. And Elm is like, yeah, he did that,
broke your wrist. Yeah.
Partly for him, and their beef, but that 100% had to do with what he did to you.
Now they're even.
And yeah, and he's owned my soul since. And when I finished this book, I finished it rather quickly after starting it, and Kayla was mad at me. And so I've been itching to read the second one.
I know you are. I know you.
You don't know.
Yes, I do. Yes,
Right.
I do. You're going to start it this weekend because you have to go back to your full-time job, your big girl job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to be busy. So you're going to start it and finish it this weekend. I'll be genuinely surprised if you're not done with it by Monday morning.
I do like surprising her, guys.
Anyways. I double dog dare you. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. If nobody has told you this today, we are glad that you're here and we're proud of you. And as always, stay tuned, stay gay, and take care of yourselves.